All right, special little treat here. Bo Belanger, my former teammate on a few rec league basketball teams. And what would you say, producer of this podcast,
You're
Connie and Jack?
you're being kind. I think I was your backup on those teams.
Oh, please.
Yeah, producer, creator, writer. I did the whole shebang on this. Yeah.
All right, so Connie and Jack, a rigged game about Connie Hawkins and Jack Molinas. Um, what brought you to this story?
Yeah, so Mike, you'll appreciate this. It started, I was helping some guys develop a TV show about the ABA, and I was doing a
Oh,
ton of doing a ton of research for them. Read as Sixers podcast, I got to drop. I read Dr. J's autobiography, which was fantastic. And a bunch of other books. One of the books was Foul, this book that's now out of print. It's a book about Connie Hawkins. I'm not sure if you've heard of it. Um, Fantastic book. It's out of print, and it sort of book stayed with me. Project didn't get sold. So I was just like, the story stayed with me. So I reached out. I was just trying to figure out the rights, and found out that the author had passed away. The daughter held the rights, and she wouldn't give them up to anybody. Like A-list talent was coming from Hollywood. It's a great story, and for whatever reason, she wouldn't give up the rights. And so I reached out. I was trying to get in touch with Connie's family, and reached out on Instagram, found his grandson, and that was really the game-changing conversation. This guy, Sean Hawkins, who reads his grandfather's quotes in the project.
wow.
Um, yeah, and I talked to Sean, and Sean was just super frustrated because that book was such a definitive account of Connie's life, and everyone run into that brick wall of they couldn't get the rights, so they couldn't tell the story. And so then I just sort of went down this rabbit hole of trying to source the story out sort of around the book. I still use the book. It's a great story. So I was like newspaper articles, this is like a year and a half of just like deep in the archive. This is like COVID time, so I had plenty of time.
Mhm.
Um, and so it was sort of a number. It was sort of the story being so good, and then talking to Connie's grandson, and just sort of hearing his frustration of like it not being out there. So
So what if you could Connie Hawkins for me is a guy that I've heard about growing up. My dad or other older guys that you hear be like, "Oh, Connie Hawkins." Like that's
yeah,
the sort of if you saw him, you would know type of guy. So
yeah.
what about Connie Hawkins as a player would you want people to know about?
Well, he's a couple of things. I mean, he's sort of the it's a great what if career because his prime is really robbed
Yeah.
because he's blackballed. Um, he's really, the way I understand it from all the research, is he's sort of the connection between Elgin and Dr. J as far as the guys who could really play in the air, that creativity, that athleticism, and then obviously that gets handed to Michael and the rest. But he's sort of a forgotten link in that story. So
Mhm.
he was just an incredibly creative player. I think it's interesting. I think his history remembers him wrong to a certain extent. He gets into the NBA finally. I'm some spoilers here, but and he sort of ironically he held the bitterness at bay all these years. He couldn't get in the league, couldn't get in the league. And the quotes you read about him, just a fantastic leader, teammate, passer, just the everything you'd want in a teammate, Mike. And then he gets into the NBA. He's not the player he once was. All that bitterness that he had sort of kept at bay crept back in. So history remembers him by these NBA years when he probably wasn't the best teammate. He had a little bit more bitterness. Him and Colangelo famously sort of got into it on the Suns when Colangelo was coaching them. Um,
We're not
so
this
yeah,
is not a this is not a pro Colangelo podcast, so that will
good. We
that
can
will
bash on that.
resonate.
That'll
Yes.
play. Um, so I don't know. I think it's really unfortunate because I think that Connie, the player that Connie was when he finally got the stage on the NBA, he wasn't that guy anymore. And I think, yeah, like I said, I think history sort of remembers him inaccurately.
So obviously we want people to listen to the podcast Connie and
Yeah,
Jack, a rigged game.
yeah,
But if you could tease a little bit about the point shaving scandal that
sure.
ultimately undid him, I'd love to hear that.
Yeah, and I know I have to be careful not to give too many spoilers here. The So this was sort of the second big scandal. The one in the CCNY in the early 50s was the first big college fixing scandal. And then this was the second one in the early 60s. Jack Molinas is the ringleader. he's just quickly on him. Fat. He was a legit dude. He was drafted fourth overall by the back then Fort Wayne Pistons. Like he was a legitimate player. Um, Gets booed. Just again, this isn't too much for it. Gets booted from the NBA for betting on his own games. Back then, dudes bet on their own games because their salary was junk. You know, like they were
Right.
actually like supplementing their income. So anyway, so Jack becomes this big. He's a brilliant guy. And becomes this mob mastermind. And he and Connie, Jack was such a good basketball player that he would go to the playgrounds to recruit kids to bring them into the college fix because he could play with anyone. And Connie was one of the kids he met, playing around New York. And Connie met Jack. He knew Jack. He'd probably hung out with him a dozen times. Um, but the mistake was he took a loan from Jack, and it was repaid shortly thereafter. But the fact that he took the loan sort of got him brought into the investigation. And I won't give any more, but he was in it. Short, he was innocent and sort of got dragged into it, and it really wrecked his life for 8 years.
Well, it's so interesting because in college basketball now, and in obviously some pros with like the Terry Rozier
Totally, yeah,
investigation going on, everything Pablo Torre is breaking constantly.
yep,
We're sort of in an in between of, hey, there is gambling, it is
hmm
legal, and it's just right there, and we're talking about it, we're
yeah,
broadcasting it. We have DraftKings as a sponsor of this podcast,
oh yeah,
but everything's very close. And then it feels like the strategy for the NCAA and the NBA and wherever is just to like cross their fingers and just hope
totally,
that nothing happens. But the echoes of this kind of scandal, we're sort of in between in the
yep,
college basketball ranks, especially because like NIL is uh, helping players make money, but it's not regulated in a way that is smooth or logical at this point, and so there's still a
yeah,
Wild West element to it. And maybe we're
totally,
headed in the right direction. Maybe it's just going to be like bizarre forever, but like it feels these holes when the system is not fully fleshed out, it leaves it exposed for bad actors to step in and similar to something that happened with Connie Hawkins.
totally. The parallels are gambling is now. I mean, think when we were young kids, like you never saw any ads for any of this stuff. Obviously this stuff wasn't around. The sort of how much gambling, the prevalence of gambling now is sort of more like it was back when the story was told. I mean, it was very common, not just guys betting on their own games, but just in the sort of general culture. Um, so I think the key difference. So I think this stuff's going to keep coming up. I think
Yeah.
the Rozier and all this stuff, and it's, especially with the college guys, because they're what Molinas was looking for in a player was he was looking for obviously guys who could play because they're going to have the most influence over the game, but also he wanted dudes who are really financially insecure because they need,
Mm-hmm.
naturally they need the money. So I think that's the one thing the NBA, I think definitely had it right. Like they're sort of, taking the money and keeping their fingers crossed. The guys make so much more money today than they used to.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so I think that's one thing they don't really need it as much. At least the top dudes. That's one thing maybe the NBA has gone for it. The NCAA, like you said, like is still doing as least for the players, giving as little as they can as possible. They're just sort of, going kicking and screaming with that. So yeah, I think it's we're ripe for more of this stuff, I think, to keep coming out would be my guess.
Well, for as long as there has been like professional sports leagues and or not professional sports leagues, there has been like links to either organized or disorganized crime
Yeah,
because people can pay to affect the outcome. And
exactly.
you're right, when they're more vulnerable, when the players are coming from a less privileged place, then that just they you know the concept of how legitimate are these games. Think about the NBA with the Tim Donaghy
Totally.
situation and
Yeah.
like all this stuff, and that once people don't think it's real, it really makes it hard it puts the league at risk and the whole enterprise.
Yeah, and that's why I think Stern was so ruthless with
Yeah.
how he dealt with the Donaghy stuff, and I think Even this Connie stuff, like that book's out of print. I mean, David Stern is a young lawyer in this Connie case.
Okay. Okay.
That's how he comes up. So like this book is fantastic. It's one of the best books ever, not just sports book. Like it crossed my mind, like, did Stern just like kill this book? Like, did they not? Because the NBA essentially is a villain in this story.
Yeah.
Um, so I completely agree. Yeah, they're it definitely makes you think. The NBA is a business, and this is just a story I think that shows how the business side of things. Like
Yeah.
they didn't want this to get out, and but yeah.
Well, it's a super interesting story. Obviously, Colin Kaepernick is another type of blackball in the more recent history.
Yes.
Um, a lot of echoes across the board. How can people listen to Connie and Jack? How many episodes is it?
So it's nine. They're each about
Okay.
a half hour. Yeah. And so there's three of them out. And they'll be dropped the rest of Tuesday, Friday. So for like the next 3 weeks, Spotify, Apple, YouTube, Amazon. Um,
Amazing.
yeah. And one other thing I want to mention, Mike, is Sean Hawkins
Mhm.
reads Connie's quotes in it. Um,
It's very cool.
Connie's grandson. Yeah. So he's involved with it. And yeah, I'm just so excited to finally get this out there and talk to you. And yeah, I had one other Sixers just to give you some. I know I got a Sixers love for you. They called Dr. J Little Hawk. He
Oh,
was
that's
at Rucker because they
yeah.
reminded him. Dr. J saw Connie play, and he wanted to grow to 6'8" because Connie was 6'8". So there's that link there for your Sixer fans.
Yeah, for sure. For sure, for
And
sure.
yeah,
Um, well, we should put the teaser here at the end so people can at least listen to it. It's very cool. I thought it was well done. Bo Belanger, Nick Caner-Medley's high school point guard
that's
for the
right.
college fans out there who remember. My buddy, I appreciate you, Bo. Good luck with everything.
Thank you, Mike. So great to be on. Thanks.
Thanks, Bo.